really interesting background, actually. Before she came into real estate, she worked in broadcast. She worked for 60 Minutes, ABC, CBS. She did documentaries. So very interesting background and interesting perspective on the business. She then joined Highland Partners 2 years ago, but all told, she's been in real estate for about 13 years. So Rosie's going to talk today about setting goals and how that has helped her stay motivated and do very well in real estate. So welcome, Rosie.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go ahead and jump right into the questions. So why is it so important to set goals in real estate?
Well, I think this being April, it's a good time to ask this question to yourself because the first quarter is over. So we can kind of assess where we are now and where we need to go. So when you set goals, it provides focus. Without that, you don't have a vision. You tend to drift. And this is true not just with real estate, but with anything in life. At least for me, setting goals just gives us a measuring stick so that we know where we're going and what we need to do to get there.
So I bet most people on the call would think, well, I've got goals. You know, I got goals. I'm in the shower. I'm thinking about what I want to do next week, next month, next year. I got goals, right? But what makes, one of the things you say that's really important is to write them down. So why is it so important to write them down? And once you write them down, then what?
Okay. So first, before we write them down, you have to know what it is you're writing down.
Okay.
Right. So we talk about goals. Well, the other reason goals are important is that it produces self-esteem. It gives you pleasure. People think that goals, I don't set goals. When I first started in real estate, I sat down with my broker. So I said, what does the average agent do? What's their production? How many should I be selling? He said, whatever you want. And I thought, well, that's great, but I just want to know if I'm doing well, if I'm not doing well. He said, you set your own goals. I then asked other agents, how many have you sold this year? And it seemed to be a big secret that no one wanted to share with you what they were doing, how many they sold. I could never get a sense of that and didn't know what success meant for me personally. Someone would say, I sell 3 a year. I'm quite happy. If that's what you're happy with, then that's a good success. You've met your goals.
Right.
So I think for me it was to find out what is success to me. And I found people were afraid to tell their goals because then they're committed to doing them.
So what I'm hearing you say is really take the Stephen Covey approach, which is start with the end in mind, right? What is it that you want to end up with, whether it's, income, number of transactions, whether you want to be traveling, what kind of income do you need to support your dreams in your life? Start with the end in mind and then work backwards.
I would say that setting goals is really an external list taking. We've all done this, and I've gone to so many seminars where they'll say, write down how many you want to sell, write it down, say it out loud. These are external things, but before you get to your goals, I think what is more important is motivation. If I'm not motivated to have goals, then I'm not going to be successful.
So, in other words, travel. You want to be able to travel. Maybe you want to put your kids through your kids or your grandchildren through college. Right? What is it that motivates you? Right. So what is it that motivates you, and how did you figure out what motivates you?
I found that in all those seminars they would ask that. They would say, if it's to put your kids through college, that's your motivation. If it's to go on that dream vacation, that's your motivation. And I kept looking for that, and none of those things made sense to me. So I found that, at least for me, and I think it's true, I've been at Better Homes and Garden for 2 years and doubled my production from the first year to the second year with a breakthrough, of understanding what is motivation. It is not, I found out, wanting to make $300 a year, $100 a year. It was not going on vacation. It was not putting my kids through college, although I did accomplish all those 3. But those were external goals. I found that the goals were important once you are motivated. So it's understanding what motivates you, and that I learned is an internal thing.
Interesting.
That we have in our brains, a part of our brain that actually measures motivation, that when you do something, it triggers the dopamine, and the dopamine actually sends out a signal of pleasure and satisfaction.
So what was it for you, the internal motivation? If it wasn't the external, it was...
Well, first of all, before I figured out what was it for me, I had to figure out what is motivation in general.
Right.
What is motivation? And I started researching, and I found that motivation is like the critical element in setting goals. You need to be motivated, to have motivation in order to set goals. You just can't sit down and set goals. You have to have motivation. So if you define motivation, then you'll start understanding step by step what motivates you. So I found out that there's a difference between people who are motivated and unmotivated. And after going through just a short list, I found out that I fell in the unmotivated category. So if you let me, I'll just read you quickly.
Okay.
I found that people who are motivated, they'll spend the effort over a long time to pursue their goals. They don't quit. Unmotivated people, they focus on protecting themselves from embarrassment or incompetence, or basically fear of failure. So they tend to quit quickly because they're afraid. If I say I want to make this much a year and they don't, they fail. They're afraid of being incompetent, so they don't try. Motivated individuals, they work through the challenges, and unmotivated people tend to procrastinate. I'm getting this checklist of myself pretty quickly.
Right.
Motivated people believe that the effort and persistence are the key to success. Unmotivated people, they looked at success based on their situation.
So were you unmotivated? Is that what you found out?
I couldn't understand why I was doing well, but I wasn't really breaking through. I was making a good income. I was always a good producer, but I wasn't a top producer, and I wanted to break through. And I looked at all the reasons why, and it wasn't wanting to send my kids to college. I did that.
So when you broke through your motivation, you doubled your production in 1 year.
In 1 year. And
that's powerful.
And it's very powerful, and it's very simple, and I'm going to share that in the time that we have. And lots of people have asked me for this, and I've always said, yes, good luck. But I will share that with you, and it's very, very simple. But understanding the motivation, and then let me just continue here, that motivated people see hard work as good. Unmotivated people make fun of that. Like, what? All work and no play? Or you know you're going to get a heart attack. And they tend to put down people who are motivated because it's a reflection on them.
Interesting.
Okay, there's one more. And then motivated people, they believe they can improve their work with training, coaching, and learning. Unmotivated people feel that their skills and talents are fixed. I was born this way, you were born that way, I don't have those skill sets, you have that. So in short, what I learned was once you understand how motivated people work versus unmotivated people, you'll start to recognize them in the way others talk about their goals, their dreams, successes, and setbacks. And pretty soon, you start recognizing those in yourself. Then you can take the steps to go from being unmotivated to motivated.
It's interesting because a lot of the things that you mentioned here that categorize a motivated person are things that I think you can attribute to most top producers. When I talk to top producers within our company, they work hard, they love what they do, they don't apologize for it, they set specific goals, and they're not afraid to state what they want out loud.
Well, I think we all have that ability. I think that we all have the potential. Whatever your personal definition of success is simply understanding your fears and understanding why you aren't motivated and working through that.
Okay. All right, good. So some people, we're talking about some people have motivation and others struggle. Part of it sounds like, is just not really being introspective to understand and think about what it is that motivates you. So it's an important process to go through to understand what motivates you externally as well as internally, and then to go about, basically the day-to-day, goals, taking piece by piece, step by step.
I think that when you're a motivated individual, or what we call achievers, they want to do something. Achievement is defined by wanting to accomplish something, wanting to do something important. They're willing to take the challenge. They believe challenge, and it's thinking outside the box, where non-performers tend to think, I'm afraid that if I do, what if? So they're so afraid of fear, or in my case, I learned it was fear of success. Because once you're successful, then people have certain expectations of you, and you don't, and you're afraid that they're going to find out it's the king without clothes. So you tend.
I don't deserve this.
I don't
complex?
deserve that complex. I learned, if you're talking about motivation, you hit the nail on the head for me. I learned that looking back at my life and my work career, I had that stigma on myself. I don't deserve this. I think it's for women of my generation. I think it's for women in general. I don't know, but I think finding the motivation externally is easy. I want more money. I want a vacation. Finding the motivation internally is more difficult. And when I began to see, I always thought I was a motivated achiever. And I realized looking at this short list, I wasn't. And I learned that was the key. I felt I didn't deserve it. And once I realized that was what was holding me back, I took steps to break through that, and those steps are by setting goals.
Okay, so you set your goals, but let's talk about some of the common obstacles that people face. So one of them may be like what you just said, I don't deserve it. One of them may be not really understanding what motivates them. And the third may be not knowing what to do first, right? And so did you get coaching on this? Did you work with your broker on this? Did you read? One of the things I know that you recommend a lot is that people read about, how to get motivated, and they read books by motivational figures.
I think that's one of the most exciting one about real estate is we're always learning. There's always something new. Particularly in the last 10 years, there's been just an incredible wealth of information through the internet, social media. All of us middle-aged women have now had to gear up, turn to our teenagers and say, what the heck is that?
Right.
And it's really helped us because as long as you're learning, you're meeting challenges. And each time you meet that challenge, that dopamine goes off in your head and says, that felt good. Let's learn more. Let's do more. So one of the obstacles is
I am worthy.
Yeah, I am worthy.
Right.
I do deserve it. And that sounds like we can laugh about that, but I am telling you, Kathy, that was the hardest thing for me to say. That was the pivotal point for me, is that I deserve it.
Now, you do hear that from people, not just in real estate, in all walks of life.
Absolutely.
You hear every once in a while, you'll hear a Grammy winner or an Academy Award winning actor say, I'm worried that people are going to find me out, that I don't actually have any talent.
Exactly.
It's that I don't feel worthy complex. And I think we all have it to a certain extent. So it's interesting how you work to get over that. But I do agree with you that success comes in bits and pieces.
Absolutely.
And that once you do start having small successes and you achieve things that you didn't think you could, that's when you start to
give yourself
have those
credit.
breakthroughs.
And I talked about books is because I think you get a lot of inspiration. There's so many successful people out there who have written books, and when you read about successful people, that itself motivates you.
So let's talk about how one of the things that I think is interesting is how do you hold yourself accountable, or do you hold yourself accountable, right? Because one of the most important things about setting goals is, how do you meet those goals? How do you measure yourself? How do you do that?
I've talked with several people, and in my office too, who ask me the same questions. You're going from the first year into a new company, and you want to prove yourself because they hired you for a reason, and you don't want to disappoint them. So several people have asked that question. And I think when you set goals for yourself, you're so focused on meeting those goals that they answer themselves. Once you meet those goals, then you're motivated. They go hand in hand. Motivation leads you to setting goals. Goals rewards you, and which means that you want to be more motivated. So it kind of goes in hand, setting goals. I do have what I learned, not through seminars. I've gone through the Brian Buffini, the Tom Ferry. We've all known that. And what I'm saying may not be new, but I didn't believe it. I didn't know it. I really didn't grasp it until I sat down myself and said, okay, I would ask someone in my office, so tell me, how many transactions did you do last year? They say, oh, I don't know. And I think what they're really trying to tell me is that they don't want to share that with me. I said, okay, just write it down. You don't have to share it with me, but write it down and hide it with your hand. Now I'm going to ask you, how many do you want to do this year? And you don't have to be unrealistic and say, I'm going to do 50. I had someone say that to me, and I said, how many did you do last year? And he said 3. So be realistic with your goals. It's like a good start. Then the second thing is, how much do you want to make? I found, particularly with women, this was a very, very uncomfortable subject. How much do you want to make? They feel that they, again, I think, don't deserve it. So writing it down to yourself, nobody else, commits you personally to want it. So before you can set goals, you have to know what is it you want. So if you don't know what you want, how can you go after that? It's a very tough thing to go to, but write it down. And I think that Better Homes actually has a very good worksheet on the internet. Business planning.
Right, we do.
Yeah, it's a very good plan to follow. Mine's a little bit easier because I'm not that detail oriented down to the dollars, but it's, in essence, it's the same. How much do you want to make this year? Be honest with yourself. How much did you make last year? And if you made $50,000 and you want $80,000, write it down, because you're your own CEO.
So one of the things that I see, you've got a great sheet here, setting goals and how to stay motivated. And if it's okay with you, can we email it out to the listeners after the show? And it really breaks down what Rosie's talking about in terms of top tips for setting goals. But it's not just about the kind of the things that we've been talking about, which are not as specific. You've got a very specific system for tracking your success.
I can tell you, I shared this with a few people in my office, and they actually the first quarter came to me and said, you're not going to believe this. I've done 3 transactions, and usually I don't do any the first quarter.
That's interesting. So is that more about the inspect what you expect? Like when you start really looking at anything, whether it's how much you're spending and you realize you're spending $250 a month on lattes, you go, whoa, okay. So how do you track that success, like specifically to set up, tell us how you set up your system.
I think setting goals or having goals in life in general is good. Again, to me, it feels good. You achieve something, it feels good. That's the reward. It's not, to me, the money, the college. It's the reward. It feels good. So here's what I did. I set an Excel spreadsheet, very easy. People say, oh, I don't know how to use Excel. Well, then write it down the old-fashioned way. I start out with the basics. How much do I want to make? How many transactions a year? And if you do that combination, you'll know that if you're doing, let's say, 100,000 you want, 10 transactions a year, then you know your average price point. So if you're selling condos at $250, $300, you're not going to make it. You need to be selling homes that are in the 7s or 8s, let's say. So you also have to set your average price point. That's very important, and those 2 factors will give you your average price point.
So if someone says they've been selling condos in the $250,000 range and they want to start selling single-family homes in the $800,000 range, they need to take a look at, maybe they need to create an entirely new farm in an area that they're not currently working right now, and come up with an entire marketing strategy around how to raise that average sale price.
Just the fact that you said to yourself and you've written it down, I want to make $100,000, $200,000, and I want to sell 2 homes a month. That's 24 homes. Now let's take off December. I always take off December, so it's not really 24. It's 22 homes. I never do much in November after. Okay, make it 23. Set your goals, whatever that. Once you know that, right there, you've already accomplished something. You've defined what you want. That's probably half the battle. Just what is it you want? I don't know. How much you want to do? I don't know. You're not being truthful to yourself. So write it down. Then you know where it's right there, as you said. How am I going to make $200,000 if I'm selling 150 condos? Change something. Now you know what it is you need to change. You need to know, I don't want to sell condos anymore. I really want to go in this farm area where the average price point is $600. So now you can make real changes to your business to reach your goals.
And so you have a monthly meeting with yourself, right?
I do.
You do. What do you do in that monthly meeting, Rosie? What's the conversation you have with yourself?
I have a great monthly meeting here. Let me tell you my little secret to have that monthly meeting. After you do those basics, that's your year goal. I have a system that is so simple, but I can tell you it's guaranteed to increase your productivity. And it is part of writing it down. Take the Excel sheet. Start with the name of your client. Are they a buyer or are they a seller? What's their price point? And the date that you met them. That's it. If you take that down, you'll find out that in January, I had 3 people I met. These are their names. I always put their email, and their buyers or their sellers, and what their price point is, and how much they, and when I met them. My goal then is
and
not.
do you track also how you met them?
No.
So you track how you.
No. In my head, I know that
okay.
far.
You know where your business
I know
comes
where my
from.
business comes from. So that's not the point of this
Okay.
here. If you were to track, if you wanted to know where your business was, you would track it differently. Same way. I'm tracking here my business because I find that agents tend to have a set number of clients, and they just milk those clients for months. So they're saying, oh, I've got 5 clients. Well, you ask them 3 months later, oh, I have 5 clients. They're the same 5 clients that they met 3 months ago. So I set up for myself, seeing that that was a pattern. The goal for me was every month to add 2 more new clients in, feed the pipeline.
Okay. So every month you have a meeting with yourself. Your expectation is that you'll have 2 more clients that you've met.
Yes.
Through your networking efforts, through your farming, through your marketing, through whatever it is, but you've got to grow that list.
Grow that list.
By 2 contacts a month.
You hit the nail on
2
the head.
clients a month.
Grow that list. So my Excel spreadsheet is divided into 3 categories, and I simply slide up my cursor from one to the other. When they come on, I've grown my list. My goal is not to close escrows. My goal is to grow that list. I look at it and I say, I have 10 people on this list. Now I have 12. At some point, when you start having 15, you realize you need to get some of these people off the list because that list is getting too long for you to be able to manage.
And are these clients, are these people you're actually in
Yes.
conversation with about buying?
These are active
this is not a
buyers and
farming
sellers.
list.
No.
This is not a database.
No.
These are people who you are in active conversations with.
Yes.
Okay.
These are not leads. These are clients. And you can also, by buyers and sellers, you can see I seem to be working with a lot of buyers here. I've only had 2 listings. I need to now focus on getting listings. It just really, what it does is it tells you an honest reflection of your business.
So let me ask you a question. If you do you ever come up short at that meeting? When you have that meeting with yourself, do you ever come
I
up
always
short?
come
where
up short.
Okay, so you haven't gotten your 2
I set
clients.
new goals.
So then how do you go about doing that? Let's break it down even further, because you've got to have 2 new clients a month. I'm sure some listeners on the show must be saying, well, I'd love to have 2 new clients a month. So how does Rosie go about doing that? Are you doing farming? Are you door knocking? Are you calling your past clients for referrals? What are you doing to build that list?
Well, first, I will tell you, but I think that's a whole nother subject, just how do you get business, because I think that the internet has changed a lot of how we do business. And I know Vito's coming on shortly and talking about floor duty, and that is one way of getting business. Your past clients are very important, and how you woo them, keep in touch with them is very important. But the internet is also a huge new way. And I think that for us, realtors who've been in the business for a while, we may not trust the internet. We may feel it's about relationships and, tracking your numbers and getting your production. That's not real estate. Real estate is really relationships. Real estate is knowing and loving your clients. That's lovely. But in this market, I believe that we're going through a whole different change where the internet does. People essentially trust the internet. So we need to learn to use that so they'll trust us. It's just a different vehicle, but they come from all different avenues. So I also analyze that and put those together. But back to the goal setting is when I have the new clients in and the list is getting too long, if someone goes into my pending, then I move them up into the pending. So now they're out of the picture. They're not in my pipeline anymore. When that pending closes, they move up into the sold. Now from my sold, I can track. Now what I track is in my sold column the same information, except now it includes my volume, the price, the sale price.
All the statistics.
The sale
of
price
that sale.
and the commission. I track the commission and the date that it closed. Because what you end up doing is starting to count things before they're closed. So, and that's cheating yourself. So you want to just track what has closed. And you'll see, last year, my first year I closed one in February. Then the next time I closed something wasn't until April. And I went, oh, what happened to March? I had no idea because I stopped tracking it. Once you track it, you see that, I was short then. Well, maybe this month I'm going to try a little harder. Maybe I'll get 3 and I'll double up my effort.
Right.
It's just checkpoints along the way.
So these are great points. Do you have any role models, mentors that you go to talk with when you're, not meeting your goals or you hit a slump? How do you?
I think everyone should have someone that they go to. They can go to whether it's a friend, your spouse, it can be your broker, but have someone you can bounce something off on if you have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's always important to have just a support group or a
Mm-hmm.
support person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that always will help you. But essentially, it's just you.
It is you, and that's the beauty of being an independent contractor,
Absolutely.
right? Is that it's just you, and you can do whatever you want. You can go
Love
to movies
it.
in the afternoon,
Love
or you
it.
can work. There is so much great flexibility, but it also means that you are your own cheerleader,
Yes.
and you are the one that needs to keep
Absolutely.
yourself motivated.
Absolutely.
So, how do you keep yourself motivated? I mean, it sounds like you went from how many transactions? Do you know how many transactions you closed in your first year?
My first year, I closed 10,
10.
and then 20.
And then 20 in your
Right.
second year. That's
Right.
amazing. So
Right.
you did double your unit count. So
Yeah.
you're pretty motivated because you had that
Absolutely.
kind of success? I mean, do you have
Now
dips where you...
Now success, well, again, if you have this system, and I know some people may be thinking that's not a system, you have to trust me. You write down your clients every single time, and if that client drops off and they're now just leads, I'd put them down into my D file.
Mm-hmm.
I just manipulate my Excel spreadsheet. That system, just knowing who your clients are and what they're doing, that's your motivation because you're constantly watching. It's like your stocks. You're watching this, and you want it to all go up, and you want everything to succeed.
But what you're saying is it's so simple.
Very
it's
simple.
Almost,
It was huge.
you almost miss it. It's so simple. Write it down.
Right.
Every single...
I don't mean write down what you're thinking, write down your numbers. Once you write down your numbers, that's it for January. You're done. You can review that every quarter, which I just did. You review it every quarter. Okay, I'm doing pretty good. Let's say you want to do, $12 million a year. Well, that means in one quarter you better have done $3 million by now, or you're behind your goal. So that's kind of an easy math to do.
Okay. All right, good. Well, we've got some great tips here, Rosie. So let's just go through these. Some of these we've already touched on, but the first one is don't be afraid to say what you want out loud, right? It's sort of like someone who's on that weight loss program. I'm going to lose 25 pounds. And boy, when you say it out loud, it does feel like you've committed to it, right?
You have to commit to it. Don't be afraid to say it out loud. It isn't like The Secret where only saying it will lead to success, but it's the beginning. Definitely.
So does that mean that when you say it out loud, you should be telling your broker, your manager, your husband, or do you just say it out loud to yourself?
I said it when I was driving alone in the car. I said, I want to be a producer. I want to be a top producer. I would say that driving in the car. Now, there are many, many top producers. I think I was in Virginia, where I'm from, and someone had written down an ad, #1 top producer in North America. So we all are top producers in our own little business, but nonetheless, you want to be a top producer, you have to know what you want. I want to be a great mom. I want to be, whatever your goals are, not just in real estate, but in life, know what you want. Don't be afraid to know what you want.
So saying it out loud and writing it down is visualizing it, right? Is visualization any different than writing it down and saying it out loud?
I think that when you say it out loud, you are visualizing it. They used to say in those seminars, visualize yourself in a car, visualize yourself in Italy, and it will happen. I think that's good. I'm telling you the key is to write it down, is to write down your business. If I own, I use this example a lot, if I own a shoe store and the manager comes in, or let's say it's a corporate comes in and goes, how many shoes do you sold this month? And I say, I don't know. Well, how many shoes do you have in inventory? And I say, I don't know. Well, what's the latest style? I don't know. That's not running a business. So this is simply writing down your inventory, writing down what you have sold. It's a business you're running. You're the CEO.
Yeah.
Yes.
You are CEO of your business.
You're CEO. So writing it down is not a therapeutic thing. It is really tracking your business.
Right. Highly necessary. So get organized. Were you organized before this, or were you? Are you a computer whiz? Do people need to be computer whizzes, or can they just
No.
use a Word document and
Word
write down
document
their goals?
and write down. Again, we're not writing down the goals. You've written your goals one time. That's in January. You wrote it. You should actually write your goals in December because January hit the deck running.
Right.
But you write down, again, you're
Your
tracking
clients.
your business, your clients. Write down your clients. If you write down one client, that should tell you something. You have one pair of shoes.
Let it get busy.
You cannot run a shoe store selling one pair of shoes. That's how I look at that. Get organized. Am I tech savvy? I'm very tech savvy. I think if you're not, don't be afraid of it. Just jump in there, and there's so much to learn. It's so exciting that there are many apps out there. There are many things that help you get organized. It used to be when I started many, many years ago, it would be, oh, let me run to the office and get the fax, and then run and get your signature, and then I'll drive it over.
Oof.
Remember that.
Right.
We didn't, before the computers, new listings would come in a catalog book, and that once a week we would Xerox it, and then we'd all cut and paste and walk around with our clients.
Remember those days?
Yes.
Oh
So there's really, it's so easy now to have a business, to run a business, and to be organized.
And don't look at what I hear you say, which is refreshing, is don't let technology scare you. Look at it as exciting, challenging, and take it on just one bite at a time. Don't try to think you've got to learn 5 new programs. Just commit yourself, like your business goal is, to learning specific things. Always be learning.
Constantly, always be learning, and we have so much to learn. We are in a new market. We are in absolutely new buyers, new thinking, and technology is helping us. All of this is very exciting. I never wanted to be in a business where every day I did the same thing over and over and over and over with my eyes closed. So I think whether you're new in the business or if you've been in the business for 20 years, there's so much to learn, and it helps you get organized. Very easy to be organized.
Okay, and overcoming obstacles.
Know yourself. This is kind of the hardest thing. It is, again, not setting those goals externally. What are the rewards? Know that reward comes from that brain, that dopamine that comes out when you do something well. So this is a little bit of self-analysis. You have to look at yourself, and we all have the potential to be achievers. We all have the potential to grow and to become successful. What is keeping you from doing that? That's what you have to kind of break through. What is your personal obstacle? Mine was different. You've discovered it. I can't believe you did it in 5 minutes. It took me about 6 months. But try to understand what personally has held you back from getting what you want. It is different from every person. Once you find that, piece of cake.
Okay. And then evaluate and reassess. So what I hear you saying as well is you may not always make your goals every single month, so you may need to reset, right?
Yes. Yes. Again, I always think if I were working for Google or working for Microsoft and Bill Gates sat down with me and said, okay, the first quarter, where's your quarterly report? Do I have one? If my manager sat down with me and said, tell me what your income and expenses, your budget is. Tell me where you are, your first quarter. We are in sales, whether we like to think we're consultants, which we are. We're relation builders, which we are. We're many things, but of course we are selling homes. So if I have a manager or Bill Gates sit down and says, you're on the top of my team, what have you done this quarter? I need to know.
So what I hear you saying is treat it like a business.
Absolutely.
Treat it like a business. Look for inspiration. Read. Talk to other agents. It sounds like you talk to a lot of other agents about what they do and whatnot. Don't be afraid to open those discussions with others, whether it's inside your business or outside. Any other ways that you look for inspiration?
I'm a seminar junkie. I love seminars. I love women. I love strong women. Men are great. But the assumption that men will be successful and women, we're still finding our way after so many years. So I look for inspiration. There's actually a seminar coming up in the Luxury Council in San Francisco where a woman built an empire of $30 billion. And I said, how is that possible? I'm going to that seminar. So you can find inspiration everywhere and anywhere. I find it in my daughter who gets up to work. And at 20-some years old, she has goals for herself. So there's inspiration everywhere. You look for them, and I will end by saying that I start my day I start my day thanking, giving thanks for everything I have. That leads to inspiration. Once someone said, be satisfied with what you have. I am satisfied with what I have. But when you start the day just being thankful for everything you have, your family, your friends, my dog, our health, and knowing that what you have right there sets the inspiration for the day. Easy to go the rest of the day with that in mind.
That's a great point. Gratitude is something that we all could certainly have more of, and it's a great way to end. Rosie, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Rosie is such an impressive agent. I mean, hearing what you've done and doubling your production in your second year here with the company is amazing. And I would like to go ahead and send out your setting goals and motivation worksheet.
I'm happy to also accompany that with an Excel example.
That would be great.
Some people think that they don't understand that, and so saying it is different from seeing it. So I'm happy to send that.
Okay.
If you just use that Excel spreadsheet, I'd like to hear how people do, the next quarter.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you. We'll
Thanks
go ahead
for
and share that.
having me.
Thanks, Rosie.
Okay.
All right, great. Okay, so before we get started with Vito, I am going to plug the Online Marketing and Social Commerce Expo coming up on May 17th, where I'm really excited to bring this back. We had it last year at the Pleasanton Hilton. We've got some great speakers that are going to talk about mobile, ways to win listings, SEO for video, social commerce tips and tricks. We're also going to be talking about what some of our new up-and-coming technology platforms are going to look like in the coming months. So lots of great reasons to attend. So more about that soon. Well, welcome, Vito.
Hi, how are you doing?
It's great to have you back. You're a second-timer.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah?
It's a pleasure to be back. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, thanks for coming in. So Vito is actually formerly was in sales with Home Warranties, and so knew a lot of Mason-McDuffie agents and offices. Actually started here in real estate about 4 years ago, and is a very successful agent in our Tice Valley office. So Vito is going to talk today about floor time. Floor time sometimes gets a bad rap, right, Vito?
Yes, either people love it or hate it. It depends with how they work it, really.
So let's talk about how, first of all, let me just ask you a question before we even get into this. Has floor time resulted in a lot of deals for you?
Yes, in my first year, I did not have a great client base, and so I focused on floor time, and 48% of my business came from floor time. And I was sharing that with a senior agent who goes, I never get anything on floor time. What do you do differently? And it was interesting because I found out a lot of people just weren't prepared for floor. They didn't look at it as completely, you have to be mentally into the game. And so I just sort of developed my own little program, and it worked because the first year, when 48% of my business, I had 10 closings, and I was #1 in the office. It was during a bad year.
Wow.
Sure.
Okay, that's great. So I know that you have created kind of a whole floor time checklist with kind of the do's and don'ts, and you train your agents in your office on how to excel at doing floor time.
Yes,
right?
yes, I do.
So some people in the audience may be thinking, well, gee, I don't have a lot of pass-by traffic, but this floor time, your coaching can also be good for someone in an office that maybe get one person through versus
Absolutely.
20 people through, right?
Well, it could be even if nobody walks in, but if you're on floor and somebody calls you up, you want to sound intelligent, that you know what's going on. So the same prep for somebody walking in, you could actually do this for somebody calling in. Know your market, know what's going on. And actually, I want to piggyback on one thing that Rosie said. Before I do floor, I go to the back little conference room by myself, and I am thankful to the Lord for what He's given me, but I also ask for some guidance to help people. So I think being prepared physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all is important.
So let's talk about the opportunity for floor time. So first of all, is it hard to get agents typically to sign up for floor time?
Not in our office. They fight for it, actually.
Do they fight for it?
Everybody wants to do. Well, we're in a shopping center.
Yeah,
We're
you guys
across
have a lot
from
of walk-ins.
Rossmore, so we have $1 million walk-ins, 450,000, all cash buyers. So
it's interesting. Before the show, we were Rosie and the three of us were talking about floor time, and she said, "Wow, we don't really get a lot of traffic through our office." However, there was one $3 million lead that walk in ended up being a $3 million listing. So it's not necessarily about volume, it's about quality as well.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about the opportunity, whether it's for, it sounds like for your office, it's not just about new agents, it's about any agent, but it's in many offices, it's a particularly great opportunity for a new agent to really sort of cut their teeth, learn how to talk about the market. Wow. What do you say about that?
Absolutely. It's, with the preparation helps refresh, me, what my market's doing. Mm-hmm. So before I'm getting ready to do floor, I run reports. So I'll run a report on what's going on in Rossmore, how many homes are available, how many are out of Rossmore available. I want to know what is the turnover time, what is the shelf life of home. Mm-hmm. So when somebody does walk in, I have something to talk about, the knowledge. I also have a handout ready to give them. And right now it may say, oh, there's only 20 properties listed. Mm-hmm. Well, I will give, it's a conversation piece. We usually have 160 to 200. Mm-hmm. So it puts a sense of urgency into the hands of the buyer, and sellers say, oh, this is a time to list. So it's perfect time to find out and what their needs are. Because remember, when people walk in, nobody wants to be sold to, right, but everybody wants to buy or sell their product. So you have to remember, when they walk in, it's all about them. It's forget your agenda. Stop and ask, stand up, smile, ask them what, how can you help them, and find out what their need is.
Mm-hmm. And build a relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So when buyers come through, so let's break it down. Of the people that come through your office, how many end up being listing with you, and how many end up being with buyers? Is there what is the ratio typically?
I would say for me personally, I would say it's about 80% buyers and 20% listing. Okay. And it'll vary for every person, and it is some of it's luck, some of it is just being able to connect with that person where they trust you to list your home. Because mm-hmm. there's 3 competitors on our street. And if they don't like the way they're treated in our office, they'll just go right down the street. Mm-hmm. It makes a difference.
Right. That is so important, like in real estate in general. Just make that connection and don't make them feel like you're trying to sell them.
Absolutely.
Right? Your idea is, you always keep in mind that acronym I love is WIIFM, what's in it for me. Always be thinking about the consumer. They're thinking, what's in it for me? It's about my home that I may be selling, a home that I may be buying. All I want is information. I don't want to be sold. Don't make me sign any agreements, right? Do you have them sign a buyer agreement?
I have never had anyone sign a buyer agreement. I've only regretted it one time when somebody left. But, I base our relationship on trust, mm-hmm. and I shake hands with them, and I look them in the eye. And if they're not being trustworthy to me, they're not going to be trustworthy to somebody else. So.
Amen. There you go. All right, so let's talk about how you structure floor time. Like, is there one person on, 2 people? What is the actual preparation? I hear the handout, right, which is great. Do you do anything else as far as preparing for floor time?
Yes. Okay, so our floor, we have a calendar, and there's 2 big shifts. One's from 9 to 1 and then 1 to 5. And there's 2 people on each shift. And the first person that's on the calendar in like the 9 to 11, if your name was first, you would be up first. If my name was second, then I'd be in the second half of that. So if somebody walks in or calls in and you're taking them out, then I go right into number 1 position. Mm-hmm. If they come back in that period of time, I drop back into number 2. And at the halfway point, I switch to number 1, and then you go into the second spot. Okay. And so, again, we try to say, let's handle them. Let's help them right now. When somebody walks in, sometimes they're in pain.
Yeah. And they want to go out and see something right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I've had that happen. So I ask them if they want an amenities tour or just the area. Do they want a home tour, or do they want a combination of both?
Do you sit down with them with your laptop and your iPad and go through homes that are available? How do you typically show them homes? Is it physically going out, or are they wanting to see what's on the MLS? Or have they already seen what's on the MLS and they have an idea of what they want?
It's a combination. Some will come in with a list and say, can you look these up? And it's great because normally I'll look the number up and it's already gone because the shelf life is 2 weeks. Yeah, because
that's the market we're in. Right.
But it puts a sense of urgency into that buyer.
Yeah.
The nice thing is that when I produce my reports, I produce the confidential ones that I do not give out. And it says whether it's vacant, whether it's occupied, what are the showing instructions. So I don't, in case the computer is down, which has happened once in a while, the Paragon was gone, somebody walks in, I could still just go out and show property. But what I like to do is get them to feel at ease, get them into the conference room, and just say, oh, you want to see a home right now? You're looking at what range again? So I'll find things that are in their price range, in their parameters. I'll say, let me get a printout for you and for me. And if they're uneasy, so to speak, I would just say, wait a second, you want to look at vacant ones. You don't want to disturb somebody right now, am I correct? And all of a sudden, they know that caring tone in the voice, and they look me in the eye and say, absolutely. That gets them into the room. And it's the truth, because if they're not a serious buyer at that point, it's their first time, then why would we want to go and disturb somebody?
Good point. So also to that point, if most of them are first-time home buyers, do you require them, to talk to a loan agent right away and get pre-qualified before you'll show them a home?
It's different in Rossmore. When I'm at Rossmore, I always ask, most of the seniors buying a home are retired. They usually pay all cash or taking a loan. So I'll ask them quickly, do you need to sell your home? Are you paying all cash? Do you need to take out a loan? And I've been fortunate because of all my sales, I've only had one that needed a loan, and they're already pre-approved. And they'll tell you right up front. And the other ones were all cash buyers, so it was no problem at all. And I don't ask for a bank statement. When you're dealing with people of 65, 70, and 80 years old, they're used to trust, and they don't want to be challenged right up front.
It's an interesting demographic you have, right? So they're probably less apt to want to sign a buyer agreement and have a handshake with you.
Absolutely.
Right.
And they'll keep their word way more than some of the kids today.
Right. Well, because some of our offices don't have the high walk-by traffic, so let's talk about how you recommend structuring a really successful phone campaign, right? So agents that are doing phone floor time, what are the do's and don'ts?
I would say, again, you have to be prepared. Go right there. Know your market. Know how many homes are on the market. I'll print out a list that'll show what has sold in the market so that I can talk to them about, well, look at, and I'll sit down and I'll be able to talk to them about, okay, that home in your neighborhood sold for $20,000 over asking. This one sold for $40,000 over asking. Because the rest of my business is not senior citizens, a lot of first-time buyers.
Sure.
And I do make sure before I take them out, they're pre-qualified.
Right.
And I do see a letter from the lender. So I don't want to waste my time.
You don't want to waste your time.
Absolutely. And I'll tell them, I turn it into their advantage. Why do I want to waste your time? And why do I want to get you into something that it's going to hurt you if you can't afford the payments?
Yeah. And you won't be seen as a serious buyer.
Oh, absolutely.
Unless you have it. Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
And
Exactly.
I told them we were going to make an offer today. I have to send a letter in. So if we find something today, we can't make an offer.
Right.
So it sets them up.
So, with newer agents coming in, or even some agents that really haven't done a lot of floor time, if people are walking into the office, it sounds like you have a very structured program, right?
Yes.
So that helps in the jitters, or, having people get over sort of, how to approach people without overselling them, but serving them. You want to serve them and not oversell them.
Right.
So it sounds like your agents are pretty well trained, and it's not an issue.
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. The only thing that messes people up is being nervous.
Right, and people do get nervous when they're talking to people for the first time.
Absolutely.
To try to help serve them, and find out what it is they want.
I think they get distracted about what that buyer or seller, what client who walks in, what is their goal, and focus on solving that problem. Let everything else push away at the time. All that information, have it lined up on your desk at your fingertips to grab. But don't worry about every single piece of knowledge don't download on, basically.
And also, if you don't know something, don't pretend you do, or don't feel like you can't say, I'm not sure about that. Let me find out about that and get back to you.
I always say that's a great question.
Yeah.
I don't know that answer at this moment, but I'll research and get right back to you.
Exactly. And people would much rather hear that than some sort of nebulous, unsure answer, right?
Absolutely. Well, especially if you smile and you say, that's a great question. Their self-esteem goes up because they want to ask good questions. They want to contribute.
Right. So something you just said, your eyes just lit up just there. And I think one of the things that is really getting from you, and I certainly would want if I were calling in or walking in, is someone who is positive, energetic, even if the market is challenged in some areas, which it certainly is, we're on inventory, that you keep a positive attitude, because people are already reading the front news. They are pretty much aware of what's going on in the market, and they need someone who's going to help them be honest but also be positive.
Absolutely. I even put it down. Leave poor attitudes, leave all negative attitudes at home.
Yeah.
Do not bring them into the office. Do not bring them into that person.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about them when they come in there. And, if you don't want to be on floor, bench yourself.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I benched myself this whole month because I had a couple listings and buyers, and I said, I can't do a good job, so I benched myself on floor.
Well, it's interesting. I'm looking through this floor checklist that you have, and you go way into detail. Like, you're like, don't chew gum,
Yes.
no eating, put all the signs out, get the balloons out, make sure your car is clean in case they want to get in your
Yes.
car and tour some homes. Don't have your earbuds on. Whatever you do, don't leave the front unattended. So there's a lot of, you go into a lot of detail.
Yes.
And so, we'll definitely send this out for folks to see. But I think there's a lot of tips in here. A lot of them seem commonsensical, right? Don't chew gum or eat, but honestly, it's about the first impression.
Absolutely. And, it's funny, I watch when people walk in. I like to stand up and smile and greet them.
Mm-hmm.
And there's several.
It's a sign of respect. Especially,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is. And it's funny because it also gets your blood going because you've just been sitting down. So
Right.
You've been sitting
If you're
a long
nodding
time.
off and falling asleep and someone comes in, stand up.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. Bring some extra marketing work in with you. You don't want to be on the phone, but you could do stuffing, inserting. You could do Excel spreadsheets. You could, I have like what I call pipeline report. I want to know what's going on with my pipeline. And
It sounds like what Rosie was talking about. Do you have Rosie's spreadsheet?
No, I don't, but I do have one of my own. I could relate exactly what she was saying.
All right. So you don't want to sit there and like you're laying in wait. Be busy,
Absolutely.
act busy. You're a realtor. People want to work with other people that are busy
Yes.
and that are doing work. So let's go to your tips, because you had some good tips. So let's talk about now. Why do I need to arrive 30 minutes prior to prepare?
Well, I like to have the reports on my territory, and I have to run it for Rossmore, but also Walnut Creek, because people will come into both, and I want to be able to be knowledgeable on the entire town, and I want to get their listing if they're going to list their home. So if I could tell what's going on in the neighborhood, what's going on in the entire town, I install that confidence to them. And it does take time to look them up and be prepared.
So like how long would you say it takes you to do this handout that you do?
Now? Oh, gosh, I've got preset things. It takes me 5 minutes.
When you first started, how long did it take?
I got in. That would have said an hour. Be there an hour
okay.
early. Also, people would fight at the printers if it's Monday morning. We have 2 now, but we had 1 printer, and if it jammed, oh my God, I didn't have my report, so I felt handicapped.
So you come in early.
Absolutely.
Just in case. All right. What's dressed appropriately? You dress in a suit?
I leave the tie off, but I do wear a collared shirt. Wool slacks. I dress appropriately when I'm on floor, and I would not wear jeans. And that will be up to every manager in their office of how their dress code is. I always tell people, talk to Maureen in our office if you have any questions. I don't set any of the codes, but I know when people come in, that first impression. After that, I mirror my clients. If I see they're jeans people, oh man, I'm in jeans with them.
Right.
And if I see they're in shorts, like today I'm in shorts, I'll be in, it'll be shorts day with them.
Yeah, I think that's true in general of your clients, as you mirror. What they are. So answer the phone properly. So I'm a caller. How are you going to answer the phone and deal with me?
I identify my company and myself all the time. I'm promoting the company. I'm promoting myself. Hello, you've called in. So, hi, this is Vito LaGrosso of Better Homes and Gardens. How may I help you?
Yeah, I'm interested in buying a home for $200,000. Beautiful home.
Great. What area are you looking for?
Walnut Creek.
Perfect. Are you looking for a retirement community? Are you looking outside of Rossmore?
No, not ready to retire yet.
Oh, okay. Well, we've got a few that we work with. Would you like to come in to discuss more of the details?
Well, I hear inventory is really, really low right now. Is there anything on this in the market right now that even fits that price range?
There's just a couple. They're mostly condos, and they may have some restrictions. That's why I wanted to find out a little more about you, and I'll be happy to look up and see if those are right for you.
Okay, sounds good. All right. So other things, attach balloons to the signs, all this stuff is basically, it's creating a little bit of energy and excitement, right? You just want to create a little noise.
Well, I want them to have fun.
Yeah.
So when somebody walks into the office, I get all these different people and different personalities, but I want them to think that I'm focused on them and I want to make this fun. And, it's funny when you're focused on somebody else having fun, you actually start having fun yourself.
Interesting. So let's see. So last year on floor time, because you've been doing this for how many years, floor time?
5 years.
5 years.
Starting my 5th year, actually.
And you just said recently that you turned it down because you actually have too much business.
Yes.
So are you still as interested in doing floor time year 4 as you were in year 1? And what's the difference in the results that you're getting?
Wow, great question. I still love it. It's in order to be a good instructor trainer, you have to be hands-on. Mm-hmm. And so I think I'm better at floor because I help others. So when I'm telling them something, I think, oh, wow, I could tweak some of my material or learn something different. Because we get so many different personalities coming into it. And a lot of times they're gruff. Mm-hmm. They don't want to be sold.
They don't want to be sold.
Not at all.
I want you to help me, but don't sell me.
One person was talking to the reception. I don't want to speak to an agent. I just want information on Rossmore. Mm-hmm. And she looked at me like, help.
Yeah. So how did you handle that guy?
I smiled. I said, I have information to hand to you. I said, I don't need to go over everything, but with your permission, I just want to show you, this is a list of what's available today. In my business card, if you have further questions. Mm-hmm. And he goes, wow, that's pretty good. I said, would you like also the history of Rossmore? Then I pulled out a little brochure and gave it to him. I said, I'm not going through anything on this because you don't want to be disturbed unless you have questions. And he goes, no, it's for one of my friends. I said, well, ask him to call ask for Vito and tell him you want my no-pressure tour. Mm-hmm. And he laughed. He goes, this is the way business should be done. This is it. God, give it to me. Let me get out. And he was really happy. And the next month, their friend called up. And she was, quivering because she's talking to somebody who's a sales professional. And my friend gave me information. And I said, oh, you want the Vito's no-pressure tour? She goes, yes, exactly. And she laughed.
That's great. I love that. Your no-pressure tour.
Absolutely.
Very good.
And I said, you've never been out here, right? She goes, no, I haven't. Mm-hmm. And so you just you don't even know if you like the place. Mm-hmm. Let's just go take a look at a couple condos, and you let me know if you want to go any further from there.
So it sounds like you heard them visibly relax. The shoulders went down when you said the no pressure because, again, you're not going to sell them. So that's a great tip. Love that, Vito. I love that. Good. Well, Vito, thank you so much for coming in today. Clearly, you've made this work for you. You've created a great system, and you are truly a leader in your office because you are training others on how to do this and how to succeed in their own business. So great job, and thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. All right, so let's wrap up the show. We just want to plug next Monday's show is going to be Gina Piper is going to talk about how to kickstart your business with internal productivity coaching. This is a brand new program that you may have heard about Gina heading up. It is a really exciting program, and it's taught by top producers, including Gina. And her entire focus is to get you into productivity, whether you're a new agent or an agent that maybe needs to kickstart your business. You haven't gotten the closings you wanted. Tune in next week and hear about Gina's great program. And then also Matt Cord is going to do his quarterly market update. So thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks a lot.
Listen to you. I said, boy, she is really good.
Yes.
Oh,